up, you guys? It's your boy, Chad Sommer, here on Rock Bottoms Up podcast on Podbean. Today is a special day where my boy, Eric Gillian, is going to join us today, guys. I'm so excited to get into this interview, talk to Eric. His road has been very, very inspirational to me as I have watched him on social media. In fact, it was a TikTok I seen of his that I duetted, and since then we've been brothers ever since. Eric has an amazing following on Facebook, about 250,000 followers, right, Eric?
Yep.
And that's because this guy brings his heart. He's very vulnerable, very lovable. I could see. I mean, I know why I'm friends with him. I can see why others would be friends with him. But again, like I said, very vulnerable. But he brings that inspiration and motivation that a lot of people in their life really, really need. So let's get into it, Eric.
All right.
Woo!
Yeah.
Supernatural. All right, Eric. Why don't we just start off and let's get to know Eric? Why don't you take us through your childhood to present day?
Yeah. Well, I don't know much of my childhood because I've blocked a lot of it out. Because I've had a lot of traumas when I was a kid. So when I first started school,
what age?
I was 8. I was in first grade.
Okay.
And I had a teacher that wasn't a big fan of me.
Oh no.
And
teachers make a difference.
Yeah, and I was not only bullied by her. Yeah, I was not only bullied by her, but I was bullied by 2 students in the classroom.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, and we would have snack time in class.
Yeah.
And my mom, she bought me a giant M&M cookie. And, she told us to get our snacks out and have snack. So I did. And my bullies came up to me. And they kept messing with me to have my cookie. They wanted it. And I told them no. I said, I was proud of this thing because it was like something my mom got me and it was big and massive.
Yeah.
So, I was proud of that. I was like, my mom got me this. And I told him that. I was like, no, this came from my mom. And, the teacher, she was like, oh, be quiet. Oh, okay. She told me to be quiet. The bullies did whatever they did. And they come back.
Buster on you.
Yeah, they come back a couple minutes later. And they're demanding my cookie again. And at this point, the teacher, she had a poll card system, which was a green, yellow, and red card. And the green card meant to be quiet. So I had to pull my card, and they had to pull the green card too. So we pulled the green card. I was quiet. They came back up to me again and demanded my cookie. And I told them no again. And this time, one of the bullies slammed their hand on my desk. And so she told them to go sit back down. I had to pull my yellow card, which is be quiet, put your head down. So I did. And I had to put my snack away.
Yeah.
And so I did. And I snuck a piece while I had my head down.
Yeah.
And the bully saw me and they told on me. And she made me pull the red card, which meant go to the office.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah. So not only did I have to go to the office, but she made me throw my cookie away.
Whoa!
Yeah. And I was completely devastated. I was crying the whole way to the office. And I told the principal, and what happened, and he was like, yeah, that's not okay. So he bought me a soda out of the teacher's lounge,
All
and he
right.
had a he had a talk with the teacher, and I went back to class after that, and then a couple weeks later, they just got computers,
Oh, wow.
and so we were in computer class, learning how to use the computer and stuff. And she sat me next to one of my bullies, and I said, he bullies me. Please don't sit me next to him.
Jeez.
And she said, tough it up. You can sit next to him.
Oh, jeez.
So, so I did. And then during that class, I had to go to the bathroom. So I raised my hand to go to the bathroom. My bully slaps my hand down, and he says, "No, you don't have to go to the bathroom." And I kept raising my hand, and then finally, the last time I raised my hand, he actually choked me. And
Right
the
there in
teacher,
class.
yeah, and the teacher told me that she didn't see a thing.
Oh, bless.
So instead of, trying to raise my hand again to go to the bathroom, I peed myself in class.
Oh, jeez.
And I did it, and I made sure that it was the biggest puddle ever so I could get away from him.
Yeah.
And my dad came with some new clothes, and he asked me why I did that, and I told him, I was like, I just couldn't hold it. I never told anybody that I got bullied from him, because I I found that if my teacher didn't believe me, would my parents really believe me?
Right.
So, and then, you know at the ending of that year, they found out that I had a learning disability. So I was going to be going to a special education school.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was actually right across the street from the school that I was going to. So, you know, the teacher gave us a tour of the school. She was like, you're going to this classroom, you're going to that classroom. And then when it came to me, she, we went to the door, and she goes, you're going to that stupid school over there.
Gee.
And since it was still school, they've the kids every kid, pretty much everyone that was there would bully me.
Wow.
So yeah, they kept calling me retard and stupid, and just a
Oh,
bunch of names. And
so
you know
it sounds like trauma happened at
yeah,
a really young age for you. Because I mean, you remember, like you mentioned, like I don't really remember too much about my childhood, but isn't it funny how trauma like that sits
yep,
with us,
yeah,
most
it,
of our lives, unless we deal with it.
yeah,
So 8 years old, teacher, kids been bullied, not only bullied, but the teacher was enabling this.
mm-hmm,
Not on top of it, her herself
yep,
belittling you and 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 bullying you. A teacher. That's
yeah,
crazy. Right? That's crazy. Take us from her
yeah.
then. Wow.
Well, and then the following year, I ended up going to this school, and it was the scariest time of my life, because these kids, they were different.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
they had they had Down syndrome. Some couldn't speak to you. There was all sorts of on the spectrum kids there. It scared me because my mom's always worked for a group home, so I kind of knew, but being around it all the time, it was a scary thing. And I found almost salvation in this school, and
Really.
I realized that these kids that I was afraid of pretty much became my family.
Yeah.
It was great. That school was great. And there was a time that my school was going to be shut down. They were discussing it at the school, so I ended up going to a meeting. me and a bunch of friends went to the meeting. It was a great meeting, and we all stood up and defended the school because they wanted to put us all in mainstream schools again, and I told my story. And after that meeting, um, this I remember very vividly. So we were leaving, and I got on my bike, and me and my friends we were gonna go hang out at my house. I only lived like 2 blocks away, so
Oh, nice.
yeah. And then these group of kids came up to us, and they were picking on my friends, and I told them to shut up, and I had a few curse words in there,
Yeah, yeah.
and so they continued to harass us, and I said one more thing, and I took off on my bike,
Yeah.
and I remember my friend, she called out to me. She says all she got out was my name. And as soon as she said my name, I felt this boom, and the dude knocked me off my bike.
Oh, wow. So it got
Yeah,
physical.
yeah, and he beat me up pretty good.
Wow. Were these older kids? Same
Yeah,
grade?
they were probably about my age,
Okay.
but they
Same
they
school?
went yeah,
Did they?
they were going to mainstream school.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
I never said anything to my parents, but I got a messed up knee from that. It still hasn't healed properly. This was the year before I graduated.
Oh, so we're a junior now.
Yeah, I participated in the Special Olympics. Yeah, we went to state a bunch of times in Stevens
Wow.
Point, Wisconsin,
What did
and
you do at the Olympics?
I was a swimmer.
Wow. Good for
Yeah, yeah, and I was a big boy then too, and I'd make a splash in the water, and then people are like, when I would swim, they're like, he does it so eloquently. He jumps in the water, makes a big splash, but he swims so carelessly. Yeah, and
you're a good swimmer.
my relay team, we almost made it to the World Games in Athens. Yeah,
Wow.
and that is held in Athens, Greece.
What?
Yeah, the only reason we didn't get to go is we couldn't get the funds to go.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, and that trip would have been amazing.
And I mean, it's not just being able to go to Athens, Greece, but I mean, you're going there for a reason. I mean, you guys
Right.
legitimately were good.
Yeah,
So that had to be pretty depressing.
yeah, yeah. We were the number one relay team.
Wow, my friend, that's awesome. How was your senior year?
I
Oh,
lived in a new neighborhood, and it was about 4 miles away or two
oh,
miles away from
oh,
school.
wow. So
And
it's
I walked every day
wow,
to and from school.
wow. You're in Wisconsin, correct?
Yep.
I mean, winter times. Did you get dropped off?
Nope. I
Ooh,
walked.
ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yep.
Ooh, that little winter chill probably toughened you up a little bit.
Yeah, I I always used to get made fun of for riding the short bus.
Oh
So
yes, sure.
so I said, you know what? I'm just gonna walk, and I enjoyed it because at that time, I was 18. You could buy cigarettes legally,
Oh right, right, right.
and you know, I always look for that day. I'm like, damn, I can't wait to buy my first cigarettes. You
Your
know,
introduction into adulthood.
and I would. My parents hated that I smoked. If
Yeah.
they found my cigarettes, they would throw them away.
Uh,
But I would smoke like 3 or 4 cigarettes on my way to school.
oh,
Yeah, and
heavy
then
smoker.
yeah, oh yeah, I was a very heavy smoker for a long time.
So we graduated.
Yep.
We graduated high school. What happened after high school?
Yeah, I had a few jobs. They didn't work out because of my learning disability,
Okay.
and I married my ex-wife now in 2007.
How old were you?
I was 20. No, no,
Tw-
I was 19. 19, and we lived in this apartment, and we both worked at the time at a paper factory,
Okay.
and and we started having money issues, and then my ex-wife got pregnant with my first child. We struggled a lot, and
Now you guys living on your own, trying to make rent?
yeah, we were, it was either pay rent or get groceries, you
Gee.
know, and so we chose to pay rent because we didn't have a place to go, you know. So
Beginning of married life was pretty rough for you.
yeah, and here she is pregnant,
Wow,
and
that had to been
having
a lot of stress.
yeah, it was a
Oh,
lot. So I always made sure she ate before I did because she was pregnant, so she was feeding for another, you know.
yeah, sure.
And so I had found out by a local homeless guy that KFC in my town, it was like not even a block away, they would separate the food from the regular garbage and throw it away in the dumpster.
Okay.
So I started doing that for her.
So things got really rough then.
Yeah, and instead of me eating, I let her eat. I would smoke cigarettes to curb my appetite.
Wow.
Yeah, I would go through pretty much a carton every 2 days. And at that time, cigarettes were still fairly cheap, so
Yeah.
and, yeah, I would always make sure that she had some food, and then, we got some terrible news about my grandfather. He had, he got brain cancer,
Oh, gee. Sorry.
and, my parents, they knocked on my door. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, "Who the heck is knocking at my door this early?"
Yeah.
And it was my parents, and, they told me now this is the hardest part.
Yeah.
They told me my grandpa doesn't have long. My grandpa was my best friend,
Oh man.
and, he was in hospice, and, I still remember this to this day that, I grabbed his hand
Yeah.
while he couldn't talk anymore. He was on his deathbed, and I told him, I said, "Please be okay for me."
Yeah.
I was very selfish. I mean, he taught me how to mow lawns with a riding lawnmower and a bunch of things that I still
A
I
lot of
cherish those.
lot of great memories.
And when I told him to be okay for me, he squeezed my hand.
Oh wow. He could hear you.
Yeah, and then the day after that, he passed away.
That's your best friend.
Yeah, he kicked my ass when I was in trouble, but
Sure.
he gave you a hug when you needed it, and his hugs were so famous. Like he would hug you so hard that
Wow.
you thought your head was gonna fall off.
Yeah, he liked to he was a lover. This was
Yeah,
a hugger.
yeah.
I bet you followed in the same footsteps. I bet you're a hugger.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I bet.
Yep.
I bet.
I made sure I carry his legacy on with
Yeah.
those hugs.
Oh, I bet you do. I bet.
Yeah.
Well,
And
sorry.
then
Was this like like your experience with a close family member passing away?
well, my grandma had passed away before that, his wife.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't as hard, but it was still pretty hard.
Yeah.
But, after my grandma passed away, I spent more time with him, and,
You guys,
and there was one time he,
he probably
let
did during that time.
yeah,
So he
uh,
probably enjoyed your company a lot.
yes, he did, and he was a very lonely man, and I always made sure I had time for him,
Yeah. There's your one.
and I remember this one time that, he let me drive his brand new tractor, riding lawnmower.
Woo!
No dents, no scratch. It was a John Deere.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and he paid like I think like $2,500 for this thing.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
Cadillac
Yep.
lawnmowers right there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this was definitely the Cadillac of mowers.
Wow.
And he had an apple orchard, and
Okay.
there was this wall
Oh dear.
next to the apple orchard,
Oh dear.
and I didn't know how to slow down,
Oh no, Eric.
and the chute for the grass hit this wall
Oh no.
really hard,
Oh no.
and I could see the disappointment on his face.
Oh, I'm sure.
But he, you could see it, but he didn't. He tried so hard not to show it.
Yeah.
And he's like, "It's okay," and we laughed about it a couple hours after that, and he goes, "Well, now you know how to stop
Yeah.
and not hit the wall."
Well, I can tell where you get your kind heart from.
Yeah, he was a great man.
And you do the same for others. You do.
Yep.
You definitely honor your grandpa, Eric. You
Yeah.
definitely do. That's really cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
And
So
then
you, I mean, grandpa passed away. How old was the baby born? Was your boy born yet?
yep, he was born in 2008.
Okay, and then
But
grandpa.
he passed in 2008, just a few months before my son was born.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So that
And
happened for you pretty quick. Born
yeah.
and you lost your best friend.
Yeah. And he has his my son's middle name is my grandpa's first name.
Oh,
So
there you go. There you go.
yeah.
Way to go. Way
Yeah.
to. That's cool. I bet you're. I mean, I bet you guys you tell stories to your son. I bet he's pretty proud of that middle
Oh
name.
yeah.
I bet he
Yeah,
is.
he tells me every day, he says, "I wish I could have met him." And I said he would have loved you so hard. And I still remember when my grandpa was still able to talk.
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, "I'm going to have my son, his middle name is going to be your first name." And he
Cool.
and he goes, "Don't you do that. I hate my first name." Yeah, that was funny. He was cracking a joke, and I was like, "Well, too bad. It's going to be his middle name."
I bet that made him proud.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, that was it.
So after Grandpa just passed away, obviously you're going through your mourning. Uh,
Hmm.
Newborn baby.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Take us from there.
Oh, everything was great until I hit 21.
21.
Yeah,
You were looking
and
forward to 18. I can't imagine what you were looking forward to when you turn 21, Eric.
yep, going out to the bars.
Oh boy.
Me and my boys, we'd always go out to the bar. There was a bar in our town that it was $10, all you can drink rails and tap beers till it was like from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock. $10, all you can drink.
Wow.
And me and my boys, we made sure that we put them away before 11 o'clock.
I'd have been dead.
Yeah, we should have been. We should have been.
Wow. Resilient.
Yeah, I was a rum and coke guy, and I would slam those, another, and
Yeah.
at the end of the night, I would go to my buddy's house to sleep it off because my son's he's a baby, and
Sure,
I
sure.
didn't want to have that around him. And
So was this like this new partying, going out to bars, wife's at home with the kid? Did it start
mm,
creating a wedge in your relationship?
yeah, a little bit.
Did it?
Yep. And in fact, we were living with my parents at the time, and then we ended up moving out to another town called Genoa City,
Okay.
and so I stopped going to the bars,
What
but
made you?
there was no, I couldn't find a good bar to go to,
Okay, because
and
Gotcha.
Yeah, my boys weren't around, so yeah, I didn't.
What brought you out that way? Did your parents move and you just moved with them, or?
No, me and the wife at the time, we wanted to be on our own again,
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
and we found a apartment. It seemed great at the time. It was only $750 a month, 2 bedroom, and yeah, I remember the New Year's when we first moved in there.
Yeah,
My buddy came up and we just bought copious amounts of alcohol.
boy.
We had what, like 6 bottles of Jack Daniels, like 3 or 4 bottles of Jägermeister, beer, and wine coolers.
Oh boy, it was
Yeah,
it
and
was a buffet of alcohol. Is what you're saying?
yeah, and it was only me, my wife, and my best friend. And my wife went to bed, and so I kept drinking. My buddy passed out on the couch, and I'm like, "What are you doing? We still have all this alcohol that we need to
Yeah.
go through
Hey man,
before the." Yeah, and so he drank for a little bit more, passed back out, and I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna blare some music, and I'm going to drink every bit of this alcohol until it's gone."
wow.
This is where my alcohol addiction came into play.
Yeah, I can kind of tell. Like, I mean, you're. It's starting to sound like you're like, if it's there,
Yeah,
to do it till it's done. Yeah,
yep, pretty
that's
much.
there's definitely some or addictive tendencies there. I can
Yep,
to that.
I I didn't drink to have fun anymore. I drank to get drunk, and that was it.
Yeah, you wanted to get there real quick.
Yep, and I did. I
That was
did.
from that grocery list that you're talking about.
Yeah,
Goodness.
yep, and
So
I.
now you're obviously you're developing an addiction for alcohol.
Mhm. And I woke up in my bedroom not knowing how I even got there.
He's
And
kind of blacked out even.
yeah, I was blacked out drunk. And that was like the first and last time I've actually ever been blacked out drunk, but I still drank to pass out.
Yeah, kind of help you go to bed anyway.
Yeah, and I ended up hurting myself, and I got these pain meds.
Okay.
And it was there was pain meds, and then there was a booster pack that went with them.
Just
I finished the booster pack, so I wasn't getting those anymore. But for some reason, I still don't know why,
yeah.
but I started experimenting with these pain pills,
Hmm.
and I started taking more than what I was supposed to.
Yeah.
I would take like 5, and then I would pass out as soon as I took those.
Wow.
I'm like, okay. So the next time I took them, I'd take 7, and then I'd pass out, and then I'd wake up, and I'm like, I wonder what would happen if I took more.
Mhm.
So I kept taking them. Every time I woke up, I'd take 2 or 3 or 4 more.
You got
And
addictive behavior.
yeah, I still don't know why I did it, but I did it. You know, and because
I mean, if you were drinking, I mean, to go to sleep, like
yeah,
obviously stress, uh, there's probably some issues that
yeah,
obviously Eric wasn't happy with Eric,
right,
and you were finding your way out through alcohol and now introduced to pain pills.
yep,
How
and
old, how old were you around this age?
I'm about 25.
So you married 5 years now.
Yep, and it was just I took these pills, and I would get to a point to where I'd wake up and I'd throw up, but I didn't care. I would take more.
Wow, wow.
Yeah,
I mean, you were struggling.
yeah.
You
Some
struggling.
some something was wrong. I didn't know what, at the time. I still didn't even consider it an addiction at that time. And so we had neighbors. And me and my wife, we weren't the cleanliest of people. These neighbors would always complain to people, and then there was one time we weren't even home and people were complaining that we were making noise. And I told the manager, I was like, we're not even home. And they're like, well, cut the bullshit. We know that you're making it up, I'm like, we're literally not home. I don't know what you want me to tell you. And so this happened a few times. And then I remember a knock at the door. It was an officer and a CPS worker, and I was still out of it from taking all my pills. And my wife answered the door. She was trying to clean up a little bit while I was puking. And they came to the door and they're like, well, we're here to check your apartment out because we've heard that you were abusing your children, making them go to the bathroom on the floor and all this stuff. And there was so much crap that people were saying about my kids and saying that we did. And yeah, I started drinking even more at that point.
So what was the end result with the officer and CPS?
They took our kids.
They did.
Yep,
Oh,
for
wow.
30 days.
And so kids, that you had your boy and your girl at this point.
Yeah.
So you got your kids taken away.
Yeah. All
Wow.
because of accusations.
Wow, Eric. Did you
Yeah.
get them later? What happened?
We got them back after
Got your kids back.
yeah, we got them back after 30 days. Because we had to keep the apartment clean. I had to be sober, which was super hard. I remember a dream I had after I took more pills. I knew that I had to be sober, but I couldn't. I just couldn't.
Addict. Well, you're addict.
Yeah,
How
and
long were you on pain pills?
like 6 months.
6 months. Okay.
Yeah, and I was able to finally break free from them, but this dream I had, after taking my pills, I would sleep in the living room. There was an elderly woman standing by my door, the front door of the apartment, inside my apartment. And I said, "What are you doing here? This is my home." And she goes, "Well, this used to be my home."
Oh no.
And she goes, "I see that you're sad, and I see that you're going through a lot of things. So why don't I make you your favorite meal?" And I said, "Okay, so what would that be?" She said, "Barbecue chicken." And I was like, "Yeah, that's one of my favorite meals."
Wow.
And she had all this chicken. She got it out of the freezer and she was putting barbecue on them and everything, all the seasonings, everything that I liked. And she put it in the oven. And then she goes, "I have to go now. But remember, I love you."
Wow.
And I woke up and I still felt something. And I went in the kitchen and I opened the oven. There was obviously nothing in there,
Yeah.
but that oven smelled like barbecue chicken. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Eric,
yeah.
you had Aunt Edna come and
Yeah.
love you, man.
Yeah. Well, we found out that where our apartment was, there was a train track that used to go through there in the 1800s and the early 1900s. And I I guess she had a house that was there by the train tracks.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was so crazy she came to visit me.
Just good, sweet old lady. Just
Yeah.
People seen that you're struggling in your addiction and
Yeah,
wanted to, just wanted to pour into little Eric.
yeah. And after that dream, I started slowing down on the pills, and yeah, it was very hard. I would get sick, you know, wanting more pills. I would fiend for them, and I got to a point. Me and my wife had ended up arguing because of my pills, because I didn't have any more, and I wanted her to go to the doctor because at this point I wasn't allowed to get any more.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I was trying to get my wife to go say, okay, well you're in pain, go tell him something,
Yeah.
and she wouldn't,
Yeah.
and so I tried to end my life.
Oh, Eric.
I yeah, I took a bath towel and I went to go sit in my kids' empty room, and I tied it as tight as I could around my neck, and I had it. I was done. I didn't want to live anymore. My kids were gone. I couldn't get off these pills, but I was slowing down enough, but it wasn't enough yet. And something came over me when I started to black out a little bit, and I don't know what it was, whether it was God or someone in the spiritual world, but they made me yell for my wife, and I yelled as loud as I could, and she helped me.
Oh,
She unwrapped the towel, and she was very mad at me, but understandably, because I just tried to end my life.
that's got to be traumatic.
Yeah, and
Thank God you yelled, Eric.
yeah, I still to this day don't know why I yelled. I I felt the need to. Something just it was like something told me to. Yeah, and I felt it. I felt it in my heart, and I cried for like 2 days after that. Just remorse and
I mean,
what the
yeah. I mean, Eric, like you get to the point where you're so low as a human being
yeah,
that your loved ones, your wife, your children, that their life is better off without you. Like,
yeah,
it's- and that's slow, my friend. You were
yeah,
really struggling, but
yeah. And then a couple weeks after that, we finally got our kids back, and I was better. I I had officially stopped the pills,
yeah.
but I was still drinking, and not as heavily, but I was still drinking. And so we moved back to my town and into an apartment. This was 2013, 2012, and it was great for a while. And then I found that my wife was cheating on me. She was texting people, inappropriate things. And, she was like, well, why did you go through my phone? Well, her phone went off. And I figured, well, we're husband and wife,
Just
you
see it
know,
as Sister Bobette.
right. And it ended up being one of her people that she cheated on me with. And that's when I really found out she was cheating. And it put me into another depression. And I didn't want to take pills. I didn't want to drink, so I started eating.
So, what was like? How? I mean, you said you were always kind of a big kid.
Yeah,
At this point in your life, how tall are you, Eric?
I'm 6'1".
Tall kid. So,
Yeah,
so here you are. I mean, you just had an attempt on your life. Um, got your kids back. Now you just found out that your wife is sleeping around.
Yep. And I've always felt like she was, but I never had the proof.
Yeah.
And I got it in a text message, and I don't know why, but I stayed with her.
So did you
And
call her out? Like how did that happen? Like, I mean, did
I
she admit to it or
I did call her out. I like, so why are you talking to men like this? And that's when she's like, well, why are you going through my phone?
yeah.
And that's when I said, well, your phone went off. So I answered it.
Right.
And I said, by the way, I messaged him and I told him that I'm your husband. And I had a few choice words for him.
Yeah, I imagine.
Because this guy, he knew that I was married to her.
Oh no.
Yeah. And he was like a family friend, I guess. Not to me, but to her family. And yeah, and I just stayed with her because, I didn't want to move back in with mom and dad. And so I stayed. And
Was there like an agreement? Like, hey, you gotta stop hanging out with these guys, stop sleeping around, or like
yeah, she did apologize and everything for that. So, I was like, okay, whatever. So, I stayed because like I said, I didn't want to move in with my parents again
yeah.
because
Yeah,
I was enjoying the freedom.
yeah, of course. So found out she's sleeping on you,
Hmm.
sleeping around. You said you didn't want to drink, you didn't want to do pills. Now all of a sudden food becomes your go-to.
Yep.
So how
And
how big were you at this point?
I
Big boy or
no, I'd say 300 pounds or so.
around 6'1"?
Yeah,
Big boy, but not like big boy.
yeah. And we still didn't have a whole lot of money, so we'd end up going to the food pantry, and she started enabling me with the food. And she was giving me all the cookies and the cakes and the ice creams and everything, and I would eat it all in one sitting. I got to that point.
So you I mean you are an addict. I can identify this because I mean I too I battled weight and drugs and alcohol my entire life, and so
Yeah.
you know this is how I identify with it is we don't I'm excessive compulsive, so we don't plan on saving anything.
Hmm.
It's there. We're going to sit there and do it all until it's gone.
Yep.
And so we got relatable addiction right there.
Yeah.
Very excessive.
And I would eat it all. It was like, and I was happy again. I was like, so this is great. I'm finally happy again.
You're finding happiness through food.
Yeah, it was my comfortable spot. And I always hung out in my room because my mother-in-law would come over all the time, and I wasn't a big fan of her.
So you
Yeah.
just like in the bedroom, huh?
Yep. So I had ended up putting my recliner in my room and my PlayStation, my big TV in there, and that was my safe zone pretty much. And so she had gotten a job babysitting one of our neighbor kids. So she would bring home like $20-$30. And I would ask her to go to McDonald's every time she'd bring home money. And she'd like, okay, what do you want? I would say 6 McDoubles, 4 large fries, and 3 to 4 Dr. Peppers, large Dr. Peppers. And I had these twice a week, pretty much. And then she started working more, so I was eating it more than twice a week.
And
And
you like she'd go out and she wasn't concerned about, hey, you're eating too much. And at this point, did you start noticing um, the gaining of the weight?
Yep. Because, I didn't move anywhere. I stayed in my room
Yeah,
all the time.
just sitting and eating all day long.
Yep. And I had ended up getting myself up to 600 pounds then. And,
Well, you guys were married.
yep. And then I found out again that she was cheating on me.
Oh dear. Oh man.
Yeah. And this was about 2015.
2015. You found out she was cheating again.
Yep.
How
And
did you
I
find?
found out by neighbors.
Oh, you're kidding. The neighbors. So
Yeah.
what were they saying? Like, hey, Eric, by the way, like when you leave, this guy comes.
No, because she would leave to go cheat on me.
Oh, she would always leave.
Yeah. And there was one time my neighbor caught her at another neighbor's house.
At another neighbor's house.
Yeah. She came out in her underwear.
Oh, you're kidding, Eric.
Yeah. And that still wasn't enough to get me to leave.
Wow.
Yeah. So I started eating more.
Just because you
And
got
then
happiness there. Like you said, when you started getting those cakes and the cookies, you're like, I was
mhm,
happy. I was
yep.
happy. So now all of a sudden, again, you found out that, I mean, it doesn't sound like she was just sleeping around. It sounds like she was sleeping around.
Oh yeah. And one of my other neighbors actually I had caught her at a hardware store, and she was in my truck, and she was holding another dude's hand. He was outside of the truck and she was inside of the truck.
Wow.
And he told me he confronted her and said, this is her husband's truck, just to let you know.
Wow.
And yeah, and he walked off like it was no big deal. And, I still stayed. And then one day in 2015, she kicked me out.
Wow, Eric.
Yep.
Wow.
And I moved in with my parents for a little bit. And we got back together in 2016.
Wow, Eric.
Yep. And, she said, I changed. I love you. I don't want anything else. I love you. She convinced me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, we're still dealing with CPS at that time too. We had a caseworker, and she highly advised that I didn't go back with her because I was doing better on my own. I was losing weight. I was, everything was great. And I said, I'm sorry, but I love her. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, I mean, in in perspective, I mean this was, I mean, you guys got married at 19. You had,
yeah,
I mean, this is, I'm not saying this was your first love, but I mean, this is somebody that you love so much that you
right.
dedicated your life to.
Yeah. We went to high school together, we grew up together in high school. So, I loved her. So I said, if God can forgive, then so can I.
Yeah.
And so I did. And we it was great for a long time.
So
And
at this
then
point, you went from mom and dad's back to her place, or did you stay at your
yeah,
place? Or
we
your,
we went we went back to the apartment that we
okay,
were in originally.
okay.
And it was great. Everything was fine. And then I was stupid to believe that she wasn't going to cheat on me again.
Yeah.
And she did. And again, I stayed like the last time.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
And
at this point, she has no respect for you whatsoever.
nope.
No respect for you whatsoever because
And
you kept staying.
yeah,
She's like, I mean, what, I can go off and do whatever I want to. And what's the worst thing that's going to happen? He
Right.
gets sad. He gets sad and feels bad, but yet he still stays.
Yeah.
So she was I mean, it's disrespectful to cheat on anybody anyway, because
Yeah.
I mean, what a horrible thing to do to another person. And the sneakiness that, the sneaking around, and it got to the point where it didn't even seem like she cared,
Nope.
being out in public with another man. And so there you are, Eric. You found
Hmm.
out. So I mean, was this just the same guys, or
Yep.
same guy?
Same one.
Same guy.
Yep. And I found out that how I found out this time is, she was talking to him, and I'm like, okay, whatever. They weren't being bad on the phone or anything.
Yeah.
I found out that she had changed her password on her phone. That was a little suspicious to me because I'm like, why would you do that if you're not cheating?
Right.
And so I typed this dude's name in her password, and it was his name.
Oh, you're kidding, Eric.
Yeah. And
Oh,
then as soon as her phone opened up, it was a picture of her and him snuggling together. Yeah. Yep. And I still didn't leave. I I, I don't know why, but I should have learned my lesson.
well, I mean, you have your kids,
Yeah.
so you're a dad, so at least you can find comfort in being a father, being there for
Yeah.
your kids, being some stability, in the
Yeah.
house. Why she ran around and did her thing.
Yeah.
So
And then, you know,
where are we at? Where are we at timeline here? We
20
27,
this is 2016 still.
2016 still.
Yeah. And she started to physically and mentally abuse me.
What do you think what do you, because you hadn't mentioned any of that abuse earlier. What,
No,
what, what, what happened there? Why did she become all of a sudden now so abusive?
I don't know.
She just
It's,
all of a sudden just started getting angry.
yeah, she would climb on top of me and start pinching me and poking me and slapping me. And, I would tell her, I was like, please stop.
Yeah,
I was like, you're hurting me, like literally hurting me.
yeah,
And she started calling me names, and this went on for about a year.
yeah.
So
Just getting to,
2017, she kicked me out again.
wow.
Yep. And I was,
Did she move the guy back in?
yep, he
So
moved
was
back.
this? I mean, you have been physically abused there. And this woman that you love so much, this woman that you like gave her just chance after chance,
Mhm.
forgiving her, hoping and praying that she would change her ways.
Yep.
Finally, she kicks you out, probably for the last time, because he moves in.
Yep. And
When did you guys get the divorce?
2018, we were officially going to court, and she was trying to keep my kids away from me.
So she was playing games.
Yeah. And I was couch surfing between, my parents' house and my buddy's house. Sometimes I'd sleep in my van. And, it was like whatever I felt like, I guess, at the
You
time.
weren't back. You weren't back with the parents,
No, I slept in their driveway a few times.
did you, Eric?
Yeah.
What was the situation?
I just didn't, I wanted to be free. So I didn't want to make my parents feel like they had to take me in. So, they let me sleep in the driveway. And, she kept, every time I tried to call the kids, well, they don't want to talk to you. They don't want to talk to you. And she started telling the kids that I didn't love them anymore
Oh, Eric.
and that I didn't want them anymore. I was done with her and the kids. And
Ah,
yeah, and I went to my son's birthday party. He hid from me.
oh, you're kidding.
He would hide from me. And I was out on her back deck. She lived in a town, it was called Beloit now. And found out not only she was telling the kids that, but her mother was telling the kids all these things too. And so I'm there at the birthday party, sitting on the back deck. My daughter's out there. We're hugging, having a good time. He comes out, looks at me, he took my hat off. He starts pulling my hair.
What?
Yeah. And it wasn't like I'm just playing with you type, you know. He starts pulling it
Wow.
and he starts slapping me, punching me, and
Wow.
I get up and said, "What are you doing?" And he ran back in the house, hid back into his little corner that his mom made him, and she told me to leave. Yeah. And we're going through court and the judge granted me primary custody.
So you won primary custody of your children.
Yeah, because
Wow.
they found she wasn't fit for that role.
Wow.
But she was trying to go for sole custody and the judge wouldn't have it.
Wow, Eric. Usually the case is usually court usually keeps that mom involved. If not the majority of the custody.
Well, when we were going through mediation, she would get upset. Like,
Oh, she was showing some anger
yeah,
issue. Okay.
and her stories weren't adding up to what she was accusing me of, and mediation knew, they're like, no, that's not adding up. The judge could see her bull crap, you know.
You get custody of your kids.
Mm-hmm.
How old are your kids at this point?
11 and 7, I believe, somewhere around there.
Okay. All right. So it's been 5 years.
Yeah. And so I ended up moving back in with my parents. That was 2018. And I met my wife now, and she saved me.
Praise God, Eric. Praise
She's,
Eric.
she,
To this point, Eric,
yeah,
I respect you so much, brother. You
yeah,
you have been through so much, brother.
yeah.
Thank you, God, for bringing this what sweet, sweet woman into your life. Not only
Hmm.
did she love Eric, but you just said she saved you. How did she save you, Eric?
Just by being there for me.
Just
Because,
support.
yeah, she went through the whole divorce with me too. And, you know, there was a video that played on YouTube, and it was of a little girl, and it was a dinosaur. And she said, he lost, he lost his mommy. It was the little girl's voice. And I cried.
Just broke.
It sounded just like my daughter. And I still didn't, at that point, I didn't have custody yet. We're still battling. Just being able to go see my kids, it broke me
You
so
had
hard.
you'd been through so much to this point. I mean, a man can only take so much.
Yeah, it was bad.
So you
And she,
watching a little YouTube, Eric finally lets it out.
yep, just a random little girl, and it just broke me. And I sat there And I started tearing up, and you know, my wife now, she comes up to me and goes, "What's wrong?" I played her the video again, and I start bawling even harder. And I go, "That's my little girl, and that's my baby, man." You know, I couldn't see the kids because she was keeping them from me. I couldn't. You know, it broke me so hard. I lost faith in God. You know, I didn't care anymore. And when I finally got custody of my kids, I knew that God was on my side again. But you know, that whole time I wasn't sure.
So, the woman saved you. You finally get your kids.
Yep.
Had you
And
been still eating a lot, or you
no, I was
saying?
actually I was losing weight at that point.
Okay, so so you said you got to 600.
Yep.
How low did you go from 600?
The last time I was weighed, I was 542.
Okay, so
Yeah.
a lot of
And
you got a lot of that weight off.
yeah, and then I started working at Walmart
Okay,
in 2019,
up
and
and up.
yeah, everything was going good. Me and my wife, we got a trailer together, and the
Got the kids,
world,
got a work, you got a job.
yeah,
Going good.
we were paying our bills on time. Hell, we were even paying rent before it was due. You
Yes,
know, it felt great. And we were supposed to get married in 2020, and we all know what happened in 2020.
right. You did.
Yeah, and it was a scary time when you were working at Walmart, being an essential worker, you know,
Sure.
and seeing the cooler that I worked in the dairy department. Seeing that cooler being, you know, filled every day, filled to nothing, you
Wow.
know. And there was one time we were lucky enough to get a thing of eggs, you know, a whole pallet of eggs in. And instead of putting it on the shelf, we were told to wheel the pallet out and walk away.
Really.
Yeah. And as soon as I got we got the pallet out there, me and my supervisor, a lady came up to me and she had scratched me on my arm. She was like,
Oh,
so no, she was so desperate to get just a carton of eggs.
oh,
And I have the scar on my arm from her scratching me. And
desperate.
uh,
She's, please help me.
yeah, and I was like, that's it. I gotta leave.
Eric's like, okay, this is getting too much. I mean, I'm seeing some scary stuff happen at work. I'm seeing food disappear. I'm seeing
Yep,
people changing to desperate,
yep.
and you're like, all right, that's enough of this zoo. I'm out. Is your little lady still working at the time?
Yeah, she ended up she was working at Walmart with me, but she ended up working for a daycare shortly before COVID.
Okay, so she had just switched jobs.
So I left. You know, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, not having a job, and I got depressed again. And, you know, me and my wife, we were supposed to get married in 2020, and we had everything all set. We were supposed to get married in it's called Devil's Lake. It's in the Wisconsin Dells. And we had it all set up. They said, "Yeah, it's fine, just keep it small." You know. So okay, we agreed, and my dad was going to officiate for us. Because he's a ordained minister,
Okay.
and everything was great. And then a week before we were supposed to be married, they called and said, "We can't host you here."
Oh no.
And we had We had a week set in the Dells. Everything was going to be great, and it just fell apart on us. And I kept eating, and I got to a point then I could barely stand up for 15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. And we ended up going to the Dells. We're like, we got to make something positive out of this.
Yeah.
Because, now that I'm with my wife, she always tried to find the positive in something.
Yeah.
So we went up there and we had a good time for a whole week. We stayed in a camper. The campground we stayed in was called Bonanza. And funny enough, the day we got up there, it was raining, so we stayed and hung out in the camper. And I turned on the TV in the camper. Funny enough, there's the show Bonanza playing on the TV.
That's so funny because I was raised with bananas, so that's what Grandma and Grandpa used to watch. So when you said that, all of a sudden the Cowboys started coming out.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That
And
song around it.
yeah, and we had a good time. And
So you
you
got
know,
hit.
yeah. Well, not then.
Oh no, not then.
Yeah, because we just went up to the Dells to have
I
fun.
did just to get out.
Yeah. And it was good for a while, and then 2021 started, and me and my wife, we were both kind of depressed, so we would go out to eat pretty much all the time. We would go to Chinese or order DoorDash and junk
Yeah,
food.
yeah. Started
And
hitting that junk, dude.
yeah, and I wasn't thinking anything of it. I was happy again.
Yeah,
You know, it was great.
Obi.
And then shortly before 2022, we set another wedding date, and this time it was sticking. and and I couldn't stand up for more than 2 minutes.
So it got to that point.
Yeah, I didn't realize it. I was happy, so I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, sure.
And I couldn't walk from my living room to my bedroom, which is 20 feet away. I had to stop in the kitchen where I had a computer chair to sit in for like 10, 15 minutes to take a break. And when I would take a break, I would open the fridge and eat more, and then I would walk to the bedroom, and from the kitchen to the bedroom is like 10 feet away.
Yeah.
And I'd be huffing and puffing so hard. And I ended up getting COVID.
Oh, you're kidding.
No. And I almost lost my life from COVID. I was refusing to go to the hospital
Yeah.
because I was like, I can do this. I'm strong. I can do this.
Yeah.
And my wife, she would yell at me, you got to go, because I was spitting up blood at this point,
She,
and my breathing, I found out, was only at 20%.
wow.
And the hospital, they told me, if you wouldn't have come in tonight, you would have been dead in the morning.
Oh,
Yeah.
out for that woman again.
Yeah.
What a
Well,
woman you got.
it took her to call my dad, to yell at me. My dad had to literally yell at me. And he's like, you have to go.
Yeah. Thank God you listened to her.
Yeah. And I did. And, they put a breathing mask on me, and I was fighting that because I don't know why. It was like I started developing anxiety because of it. And they kept giving me meds to calm me down and everything. And every 15, 20 minutes, I'm like, hey, I'm going to take this off, or you guys need to give me something. And so they ended up shipping me out to a hospital called Summit. in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. I was there for 2 weeks, and I was at my lowest point again.
Yeah.
I wasn't with my family, they couldn't come up and see me, and if my wife came up, she had to wear a mask, and she was only allowed to be there for, like, 5 minutes,
Wow.
and we lived, like, 45 to 50 minutes away from there, so, I just told her.
See ya. Yeah.
Yeah, I just told her, I was like, "It's fine, we'll call on the phone and stuff,"
Yeah.
and I got very low in the hospital, and, I lost faith again, and I wanted to end it there, but something told me just to hang on.
Yeah.
It's gonna be okay, and the day that I was being released, I couldn't wait to get out of there. My wife was waiting downstairs for me, and, it wasn't they weren't hurrying up. So it was like she was waiting from, like, noon until 6 o'clock in the evening for
What?
me. Yeah. It for some reason, it took that long, and, I get in the car, and I'm happy, kind of, but I'm, like, in this weird happy, but I'm still at my lowest point again.
Well, I mean, you're reunited with your wife. Obviously, that's that
Yeah.
feel like home, right? Being able to.
Yeah. Yeah, and, first thing I told her to do was to go to Fleet Farm, which was right across the street, and my my nemesis was orange sliced candies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I loved those things.
That's my mom's favorite candy.
So I had her go in. I said, "Get me 2 packs of orange sliced candies and some beef sticks," because
Yeah,
I was tired of the hospital food.
yeah. You're craving your go tos.
Yeah, I was sitting there after she got them, and I was eating these candies, and, I thought that it was gonna make me happy eating these, but that whole black darkness, started hitting me, and I was like that for
The doom and gloom.
yeah, I was like that for about a couple months after getting out of the hospital, and I was eating whatever I could. I was trying to hide my sadness and my darkness from my kids, but they knew.
Yeah, they seen something was up with
Yeah,
that.
it was just a bad time, and
It's a dark time for you.
yeah, and then so now a couple months, everything's better again. Our wedding date is still planned, and you know, something clicked in my head like, you can't stand for 2 minutes. How are you going to get married to this beautiful woman that saved your life?
All of a sudden, you're feeling inadequate.
Yeah. So I didn't want to marry her at that point because I didn't feel like she deserved that. And so I tried my hardest to lose a lot of weight. I quit drinking at that time, and I said, when we get married, I'll drink then, you know. But until now, I'm not drinking. I'm gonna eat as little as possible.
Where are we at, like, in time frame here? 21, 22,
Yeah, 22 now.
22. So
And
you've been on TikTok for a hot minute then.
yep. Yeah, I think for TikTok I've been on there for 6, 7 years now,
Yeah.
maybe 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was the fat bearded guy, and I would do the shirtless dance videos and
Yeah, right,
on
right.
there. So, you know, that's how I started losing more weight, is doing these dances and I would stand up. I would be leaning on the bar in the kitchen, and I got myself to be able to stand for like 15 minutes, bent, leaning on something. And so I said, okay, I'll marry. We'll get married. And I had a cane with me the whole time. And during the ceremony, my dad, he married us. And
That'd been cool.
yeah, during the ceremony, he kept asking, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I kept telling him, "No, I'm not okay." My legs were shaking, my knees were shaking, but I stood there because I know that's what she deserves, my wife. And I was in so much pain after that. I knew that I had to change my life,
Yeah.
or I was going to die, and she doesn't deserve that either, or my kids.
Yeah.
So I changed up all of my TikTok videos to trying to lose weight. I had a bunch of creators that reached out to me and told me, well, this is what they did, that's what they did, and they were helping me, trying to.
Yeah.
But I was still in my active addiction phase with food. I knew that I needed to lose weight, but the addiction was there still, and I tried, I kept trying, and then, you know, winter hit 2022, and I gave up on trying to lose weight. And, I was pretty big on Facebook at that time, and a lot of people were disappointed in me, and I was at my lowest point again. So I started eating more and more and more again. And I was lying to everybody on social media. I was telling them that I'm doing great. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Everything's awesome. I was lying to everybody and to myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I knew that I needed help. And I knew that, I'd lost my faith. So I asked God, I was like, God, if you're real, I really need your help.
Mm. What a humble prayer.
And I said, if you don't mind just sending me some help,
Yeah.
I'd appreciate it. 2023 rolls around, summertime. I'm back at it again. I'm working as hard as I can. You know, in my trailer park, there was a circle. And if you walked the whole thing once around, it was about a mile. And I tried that every day. And I would get discouraged when I couldn't make it.
Sure.
You know, I would only be able to make it halfway. And then I got my walker, and I started walking with that. And then one day, I put on some music on my headphone, borrowed my son's phone, and I live streamed it on you or Facebook, and I made the circle.
Yeah.
And I was playing Five Finger Death Punch,
Yeah.
and there's a song that really related to me, and it's called "Wash It All Away." And I did that day.
Yes.
And when I got back to the trailer, I sat down in my walker. I was already having trouble breathing, but I started crying. It just like I was like, God is there for me. He's there. And I felt that over, like when God reaches out and touches you, you feel that.
It's unmistakable. You can't
Yeah.
mistake.
And I felt that, but I was trying to breathe, but I was crying, and it was so hard, but
Uh,
it was the best feeling that I have had in a long time.
you got
And since then, I've been, I've been dealing with my addiction.
sure,
I still deal with it,
sure.
but not as bad as what it used to be. You know, and we moved out of the trailer because there was holes in the floor, and they wanted to raise our rent. We moved back in with my parents in 2023, and no, 2024, I believe, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
And
just a few months ago.
yeah, it was a great feeling. Everything's going again. Everything's great. I did a few videos here. I did one of me running with my kids in
Yeah,
the back. We were running in the backyard and having a good old time, and
yeah.
you know, everything's been good now. I had a job for a while, and I was
Back
working
to
for a
Walmart.
cab.
Oh no, no.
Yeah, I was working. Huh?
Didn't you go back to Walmart or no?
I did go back to Walmart only for about a week,
Wait.
and it wasn't the same, and I was having PTSD moments. You
Oh,
know, I was seeing where I got scratched and all this stuff, so I was like, I just I can't do this. And so 2 weeks later, I got a job that I loved. And I worked for a cab company for about 2 or 3 months,
nice.
and
Do you like that?
I did. It was great, but the only thing that I didn't like is they relied on me too much.
Oh,
They were kind of using me at that point. And my mom started telling me, she's like, I really need help.
yeah,
And she's like, I can't do a whole lot. Your dad's your dad can't do a whole lot. We need
yeah,
your help. So
yeah,
I left it to help my parents. And you know, that's what I'm doing now, but I'm actually going to be doing like Uber pretty soon so I can make some income. But yeah, when I had that wheelchair scale, I don't know if you remember that. When we moved out of the trailer, there was a really heavy box that was on the cord. And instead of my son moving the box,
sure. You just pulled it.
he just pulled it and it ripped. And yeah, I didn't have a scale for a really long time now because even if I did replace the cord, I don't have room for it here where I'm
Yeah,
at.
yeah.
So I didn't have a scale. So I'd go to the doctor and weigh in, and I was 643 pounds.
What was your heaviest, Eric? Do you recall?
My heaviest that I have recorded is 730, 725, but my actual heaviest I don't have recorded was 800 pounds.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't talk about the 800 pounds because people, they're like, well, you don't have proof of that, so you're lying,
Yeah,
so I don't talk about that. So I only talk about what I do have proof of.
yeah.
You know, my family and friends, they know that I was 800 pounds because I had ended up in the hospital because I had cellulitis,
Okay.
and it was real bad. And my buddy took me, and they weighed me on the bed, and I was 783 at that, and that was the last time I was weighed, and I know that I gained more weight after that. So,
Yeah.
you know,
So I mean, here you are, Eric. I mean, top in the scales, 800.
yeah, on
Things,
the bed.
things starting finally, starting to go good for you. You're starting to get that life back into your eyes.
Yep.
Get that motivation.
Yep. And
I mean, what were you? I mean, you got down to 608, 609,
I got down to 609.
and then we had a bad week.
Yep.
What happened? Just craving?
Well, yeah, well, I got invited because my kids got invited to go to this restaurant, and I was like, my buddy, I haven't seen him in a while. We'll go have dinner with him.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, if I have some chicken, it's not going to be as bad as pizza and all that stuff. So
Hey, we start
yeah, so
this, that, and the other. It's not as
yeah, yeah. I'm like, I'm losing weight, so whatever.
yeah.
And I had two plates of the same thing, two pieces of chicken, two biscuits, and a little bit of noodles with some Alfredo sauce on them. Both plates were the same.
Yeah.
And then the next night I had a huge Jersey Mike sub. It's called the Big Kahuna. It's like a Philly cheesesteak sub, and it was the giant one. Yeah, I love Philly cheesesteaks. Yep. And I didn't think of it at the time. I'm like, I'm still losing weight. Whatever.
Yeah.
And so I ate the bread and everything, and
Yeah.
then the next day I was craving a snack, and I know it's not a snack because I ate the whole bag, so that's technically not a snack. But I ate that in a whole sitting, and then I felt bad about that. So and then I weighed in, and I was 618 again.
Yeah.
So, and then my mom, and I appreciate what she did. She called me out
Good.
on Facebook.
You need that. You need that support.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and that's what.
You don't need enablers. You don't need
No,
enablers. You need
and
people to help you stay focused on your goal.
yeah, and that's what compelled me to make my confession video on what I had eaten.
Yeah.
But you know, now that I have this scale, it
Yeah.
really,
That's a pretty nice skill, man.
yeah, it really put a fire under my ass.
Wait, because it's in front of you now. It's not
Yeah,
like or anything. It's like you
yeah,
can keep that weight in front of you and keep watching what you're doing.
yeah. And I considered a lot of people on Facebook my haters, and some of them are, but some of them were trying to, give me tough love, and I wasn't seeing it at that time.
Sure,
I considered them as a hater.
because you're emotional too.
Yeah,
It's like I mean, it's not like like it feels good to come out and say, "Oh, I slipped up."
right.
Like because I mean, you feel bad already, and then
Yeah,
on top of feeling bad, then you got these people who are like verbally abusing you. Yeah.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
social media is a tough one, especially when you get
yeah,
out there and become vulnerable. It's
yeah. And then they kept asking, well, how much weight have you lost? How much weight have you lost? And I was like, what, leave me alone. You know, and then finally, I got my scale, and then when I weighed myself for the first time, it was 620, and then I was like, you know what? Maybe these people really weren't hating on me.
yeah, just trying.
So now that I have this scale, I've been doing real good, and I want to keep doing real good.
Yeah.
So I know now that I can't have fried chicken.
So what's the support look like? I mean, because I know this for I just know this for myself because
Yeah,
if I don't make a plan, I plan to fail every time.
that's right.
If I trust Chad's instincts, if I trust my instincts, Eric, I fail every time.
Yep,
Yeah,
same here.
I have to write a plan. There has to be prep. Everything has to be in front of me because if I don't keep it
Yeah.
in front of me and I leave it up to me, I leave it up to circumstance.
Well,
Everything.
you you inspired me a lot too.
Did I?
Yeah, well, I watched you go from the big dude you were to
Yeah,
doing these Timmy, you know,
mercy.
I watched you suffer, dude. I
Yeah,
watched you go through that, and that video you made, you talked about your counselor and making a plan, and I'm
yeah,
like, I took that as inspiration from you, and I'm not a good writer, so I don't write it down, but I make a plan in my head now,
yeah, yeah.
and that's
Use that
because of
phone,
you.
man. Use that phone.
Yep.
Stop, Eric, buddy. Because I mean, listen, you have a story.
Mhm.
You have a story. I mean,
Yeah.
you've been through some pretty rough patches. You've
Yep.
experienced pretty, and and people like us when because we're our worst enemy. Nobody's going to beat me up worse than myself.
Right.
Because you know why? Because I'll go out there and damage myself even worse.
Right.
That's why I know nobody can beat me up worse because I'll
Right.
go out there, I'll take whatever situation or you know whatever circumstance it may be, and I will make it worse because I will beat myself up by relapsing,
Mhm.
like you said, eating more, whatever the case may be. And we know what real pain feels like.
Yep.
Oh, I I mean, I woke up in the ER.
Yeah, I
I
remember that.
I got to the point where I gave up on myself,
I remember that.
and I can relate to that Eric, that has gotten to the point where like I hate myself.
Mhm.
Like everybody would be better without me. I'm a burden on everybody. I cannot succeed at anything. I fail at everything I touch. I
Yep.
can't I can't do anything right.
Mhm.
I know what I know what mental pain feels like. I know what physical pain feels like.
Yeah.
The thing that I've learned on my journey is if because we're all human.
Right.
Like I don't know what the statistic is of somebody just like saying, "Hey, I want to lose weight," and all of a sudden they just lose weight with no relapses. And
Right.
because as humans, we do we have to battle ourselves every day,
Yeah.
and so, and it's what you do Eric, too. I mean, you do the exact same thing. Like you pour into people all the time because
Mhm.
you want them not to feel like you do. You
Exactly.
you want them to succeed. Like you get happiness on helping other people.
Mhm.
And we do the same. And so here was my last relapse. Here's my last relapse. I almost go to a Mexican's prison for heaven's sakes.
Yeah.
And this is my rock bottom. And instead of allowing this to beat me, I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it as a learning tool.
Yep.
Somebody out there who can relate where I'm at, who may be right now in a dark spot. Maybe I can give them some words of encouragement that's going to pull them out of that dark place where I know I've been. I don't want them there. Maybe I can say something that will show the humanity, show the vulnerability, and it's okay. Like, it's okay. The most important thing that you can do for yourself is just don't give up, because if you
Yep.
give up, that's when you fail.
Yep.
As long as you keep making strides in the right direction, you're moving forward. You're
Exactly.
moving forward. And so that's awesome, Eric. Like, I mean, I'm so proud of you, but I hope
I
you know.
appreciate that.
I hope you know.
Well, I
Like,
hope you know how proud I am of you too.
I appreciate that, brother. I do. I appreciate that. We've been good support for each other.
Yeah, you're a huge inspiration to me, man.
I'll tell people the same thing. I tell people the same thing on my social media because I didn't even know your story or know where you've come from to where you are now, dude. I can't support you enough, man. Like,
Yeah,
honestly, buddy, I can't support you enough, man, because I want you to be proud of yourself. I, I,
exactly.
I want, I want, I want more than anything in this whole entire world for you to be able to hit your weight, bud, and turn around and look at what you have overcome. You are setting not just a great example into your social media. I mean, look at what your kids get to see. You
Yeah,
show your kids that dad's dad's been at the bottom of the barrel, and you know
yeah,
what? You know what? Even after all that, after all I've been through, you can still make a choice. You can
exactly,
still choose to live a better life, and
exactly.
you're doing that. You're doing that for your social media. You're doing it for your kids, but more importantly, buddy, you're doing it for you. Who deserves it the most, Eric?
Yeah, I agree.
You deserve it the most, buddy. Absolutely. Well, as we come to the end of today's episode of Rock Bottoms Up podcast, I want to leave you with this message of hope and inspiration. No matter how deep the struggles or how daunting the journey may be, as Eric has been so vulnerable to share with us, there's always a way forward. Eric today has shown us that even in the darkest moments, there is light to be found.
Yep,
And even the smallest steps forward can lead to profound transformations.
yep,
Let his story remind us that recovery is not just about overcoming addiction or shedding pounds. It's about reclaiming our lives and rewriting our futures. It's about finding the strength within ourselves to keep moving forward, even when faced with adversity. So, Eric, and to all those listening who may be battling their own demons, remember this: you are not alone.
nope,
Your story is not over. And every day is an opportunity to take another step towards healing and growing. Eric, thank you for joining us
thank
on
you.
this journey of resilience, redemption, and renewal. Until next time, guys, keep your chin up, your spirits high, and remember that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. Stay strong, stay inspired, and keep reaching for those brighter tomorrows. This is Rock Bottoms Up podcast, signing off.